Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, oh my goodness, I have an amazing guest for us here today. His name is Tim. He's a self-made millionaire in the tech industry. He started his career as an airman in the United States Air Force, but soon realized this wasn't the path he wanted to continue on. And in 2011, with no formal education and only $8,000 in his bank account, he launched his first app. Since then, Tim has launched hundreds of apps, developed hundreds of platforms, and directly supported other million-dollar organizations. He has scaled to millions of users across his various platforms globally. What's more, he teaches others how to build their own freedom and wealth. His motto is, if I can do it, then you can do it. Please welcome Tim Branyan. Oh my goodness, the master of tech. Thank you for coming on the show, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so true. If I can do it, I really do believe that. If I can do it, anybody can. So just echoing that.
It's funny because we're going to get into a little bit more around tech, but you say that if you can do it, anybody can do it. But I find that when it comes to tech, people have this massive fear around it, right? And I don't know if you've come across it, but clients tell me this all the time. But before we get into that whole nitty-gritty, I would love for you to explain to our audience today how you managed to create such an awesome business. Was it something you planned, or did you just fall into it like most of us do?
Yeah. Real short and sweet, I became obsessed with freedom, and technology and software made a lot of sense to facilitate freedom. So my background, I grew up in central Indiana, small town, not a ton of opportunities, definitely opportunities here, but it's more blue collar. And I didn't see myself in that line of work or trade work. So I thought, man, if I can do the military thing, love it or hate it, I could marry it for 4 years, build up a resume. And in my mind then I was thinking I could be a really good employee. And there's not many people, that would stiff arm me if I was coming from the military and I had this experience. I just thought it would look really good. But transitioning, and as I was in the military, I discovered, this is kind of another job. They call it the service for a reason, right?
Right.
And as I was I started to just desire, flexibility, and I wanted to make some decisions on my own. And I felt like, some of the characteristics I got from the military could help with that. But long story short, I did some contracting overseas after I left the military. So I lived in Kuwait and Dubai, and I made really, really good money as a young guy, living abroad, doing similar work to what I did in the military. But I became very restless and very discontent. And I remember I would go to work every day and just have like this just depression, like looming over me as far as, just trading time for money. I felt lost and stuck, really. So I became obsessed in a solution. I didn't just stop there and kind of wallow in my self-pity. I was like, okay, what can I do? How do I make half of this money that I'm making now, but not have to trade my time for it? And how do people do this e-commerce thing? How do people do this? How do people own franchises? What does this look like? So I started researching and asking questions and writing down ideas and plans. And I had this notebook of all these different ideas and things that could possibly, that might be able to help me escape and and build a life I didn't need a vacation from. And ultimately, after racking my brain on all these different things, technology made a lot of sense. So with no formal education, I just, did as much research as I could, took some risk, and went through the development process. And I ultimately fell where I'm at now through continual trial and error, failing forward, learning, being scammed. I've just been in this game long enough where I didn't quit. And I've managed to build a really, a successful team and many successful projects, some failures too in that, but it's all resulted in where we're at right now.
Right.
And so that's kind of my story. How I ended up in the tech space was just through aggressive curiosity and the exploration of freedom.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I've got a ton of questions now, right? Like you've mentioned so many things there. Like first of all, you mentioned that you had this book that you carried around with you and you wrote down ideas.
Yeah,
Do you still have that book?
I think I do. It would be in my office at my house.
Oh,
It was this green book that had
wow.
everything from a hot dog stand to a franchise, different,
No.
Chick-fil-A, having a bar, a hookah lounge, all these ideas that I was thinking, what would work in my city? What would people pay for in exchange for a product or an experience or service? And I think that's, if I can just kind of mention something real quick, if you
Yeah.
are in this world where you're trying to think of something
Mm.
that could work or be profitable, it's way better of an idea to think about services that you can provide or problems that you're going to solve. Think about the people that you want to help versus just focusing on what's this amazing idea that I can have. I think you'll land closer to your mark when you start thinking about the problems that need solved or enhanced. That's what I did that helped me.
Yeah, most definitely. And I like the fact that you were like, right, I'm not going to quit. Right, I'm not just going to store all these ideas in my head. I'm going to jot it down. I'm going to put it on pen to paper. And you were taking action right from the get-go, right? You
Right.
weren't going to quit. Now, I'm curious. Out of all these different ideas that you put in this book, how many of them did you actually try?
Yeah. So the idea book was mainly just seeing if it could pay me and all the pillars that I wanted to be paid in. So when I look at an opportunity or I'm looking at something to take ownership in or build, I'm looking at, okay, how much time will this take for me? How
Mm.
much money is possible? How much stress is this going to cause? How many certifications do I need to get? Or how many, what is the accumulative gain to give ratio? And I'm looking at a multitude of different things and kind of feeling them out, doing some research the best that I can through Google or different resources. And so for me, that book ended up resulting in making one decision and going through all the different franchise pros and cons, and there's different franchises, right? So
Right.
Chick-fil-A, you name it, there's hundreds. Um, going through all of these, I realized that software, apps, e-commerce technology made a lot of sense for my risk tolerance, made a lot of sense for the kind of lifestyle that I wanted to live, made a lot of sense for, having a global brand and being able to process payments globally and not
Mm.
having to necessarily have some huge workforce to generate $5,000 to $10,000 a month was my initial goal. And so it all felt right. It
Yeah.
all made sense. It wasn't, unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of analytics or data. It just was like in my gut, okay, this seems like it could work. I just had belief. And early on, it was mainly belief on fire.
Oh,
So,
wow. Oh my goodness. I like that saying though, belief on fire. Wow. And so, do you know what? There's so many people out there that have these ideas, right? But are scared, are living in a state of fear because
yeah.
you're going in the unknown. What kept you going, right? Because you mentioned that, some businesses failed, some of these ideas failed. You even got scammed, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of that going on. But what made you say to yourself, do you know what? I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to keep going until I find the one thing that works for me.
Right. So part of it is I'm stubborn. Like I like to see things come to fruition. When I set my mind to do something, I'm really committed
Right.
often. I don't know where I got that characteristic, but I like to see things through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think for me, I saw the reward at the end, like the result of what could be, and it outweighed the fear of what I didn't have at the time, what I didn't know at the time, or the things that were obstacles weren't that big because they didn't compare to the reward at the end if I was able to pursue and get over the emotional obstacles and the logistics of and the energy that it needs to be put in order to get to that end of the road. Like I was way more fearful of not trying than trying,
Wow.
because if I didn't do anything different and I
Mm.
stayed in my cycle, we'll call it that,
Yeah.
my day to day, my operating system, if I didn't add new information or add different commands, since we're talking about tech,
Right.
then I can expect the exact same results, right? Duh. So for me, it was like, I have to do something different. What could I do that could has a high potential of changing my circumstances? And you can use that same methodology or thought process to your fitness, to your income, to your relationship. And if something's going to change, you have to change. So identifying what these slight consistent changes are going to be will help you in your trajectory to where you want to go. So that's all I did in regards to the tech space, was just, okay, or in regards to the freedom space, we'll call it that, was what can I do? And it just, fear wasn't even relevant at that point. It was
Wow.
necessity to escape. I'd made a lot of money, and just to kind of further go down this road, like, I think I was 20. I don't remember how old I was. I was a young guy making really good tax-free money, and I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. And there's something to that as well. Like, what is rich? What is wealthy? And once you really start to unpack that, then your motivation increases as well. Because when you have more oxygen, if you will, quote unquote, oxygen in your lungs, you can breathe more into the things that you're passionate about, or your gifts, or your things. So it was a necessity. It wasn't like, oh, woe is me if I don't do this. I think oftentimes the biggest fear is like what others will think about you. Yes. Or fail. Like, nobody likes to make mistakes or look bad, but yeah, it's worth it to do your dance so you don't regret things in the future.
For sure. Now, I want to take a couple of steps back here, because you've mentioned a couple of times already that the bubble that you was in, right, was really, really uncomfortable for you, that you were looking at different ways to get out of that bubble. Can you tell us a little bit about what that bubble looked like for you back then?
Yeah. So I worked for a company called Constellus, got absorbed into a company called Constellus Group, which is a huge contracting company that does all sorts of stuff all over the world in support of the Department of Defense. So my job early on was static security, or personnel security, or asset security. So similar things to what I was doing when I was in the Air Force, but in support of that civilian company. So working in Kuwait, the temperature and the weather is really harsh. It's really hot. Okay. The commute to where we lived was very long. The characteristics, I guess, of a lot of the workforce there was very much like self-centered, self-serving, and not collaborative. It was, most people are out there, they had their goals to get their money, work their job, go home. There's no connectivity really. It was like a lot of pirates. Yes. Not a whole lot of love going on out there, or any sort of like collaborative moves. It was just mainly money focused, which, depleted my tank pretty quick. I think I was out there 2.5, 3 years. So just the environment, not just the weather, but the culture, the, being away from home and watching life happen external of like where I'm at, and being able to audit and evaluate, okay, what's important to me? I'm making more money than what most 20-something-year-olds make, but I'm not really happy. And I was traveling the world, and I was, participating in the world, when I did get free time, right, that I had to ask permission for. I would go and drink, or I would go and party, or I would go and chase women before I was married, and, restructured my life. But, I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. It's like, what is my purpose? How do I not just be successful, but how do I be significant? Because I've always felt like I had something to share. And I think most people feel this way. It's just over time that it gets beat out of them, or they stop believing for whatever reason. They need somebody to encourage them, or light a fire, or reinvigorate the possibility that it's possible. So yeah, that's where I was at, and that aggravated over time. So going into this environment and working really long days in the heat, in Groundhog's Day every day, eventually got to this breaking point of, I have to do something because it's necessity, or I'm going to be miserable. So I would look at quotes about time. they would just rock me to the core. I would listen to side conversations going on in the working environment, and they just weren't becoming of successful men, or what I consider rich men.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to change my environment. So I got to work thinking and imagining my way out of a situation that I was in.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm so appreciative that you shared that with our audience today, because there's so many people out there that are probably in a similar situation that you were in, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't see a way out, right? But now you've kind of said to people, it's not going to be easy, but if you want it that bad, then you'll make it happen one way or another,
Yeah.
right? And that's awesome. Oh my goodness. So, Tim, you are, first of all, actually, what you mentioned to me previously was there wasn't people in your workforce that were they weren't collaborative. And you are a master at collaborations, right? This is how we met, right?
Yeah.
And you know so many people in different industries, and you bring people together. This is where you thrive, right? And this is how you've built several businesses. This is how you've become a self-made millionaire, because you collaborate with anyone and everyone that you align with, that will help you build your business and theirs as well, which I absolutely love. And I knew at that point that I had to bring you on this show. And I just wanted to share that with everybody. But regards to the tech side of things, oh my goodness, there's so much controversy around tech, right? There's people in business that are like, nope, tech isn't my thing. I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't get it. And then
Right.
there's others that are kind of like, this is too difficult to learn. I've tried it. It is not working for me. You know, tech just keeps evolving. I can't keep up with it. What are your thoughts for business owners and entrepreneurs when it comes to tech?
Technology is a tool that can be used for good or bad. Technology in business specifically will help you make more informed decisions. It'll help you effectively communicate with employees, customers, stakeholders, you name it, and organize those conversations and dialogues. It'll help you understand and comply with various regulations. It can help you identify and capitalize on various opportunities to grow and develop. So analytics and actionable analytics, which I love, can help you forecast for potential changes and challenges or triumphs. Again, actionable analytics and insights that, you know, if you don't adapt to the digital age, then you're very likely not as high performance as you could be. So measuring tools, but ability to maintain strong relationships and connections, back to communication, but then also your reputation. I own a reputation platform as well that helps people translate their offline sentiment to online sentiment, because people are looking you up online first before they make a buying decision. That's a fact. It's not me saying it. You can look it up on Google. 90% or 80% of people look you up first. So tech is that's not even a debate that I would get into. If somebody just firmly believes that technology isn't for them, I would argue that they're probably already using it, or someone in their ecosystem of business is, to assist them or make things move, whether it's a physical or digital product. And that just wouldn't be a conversation that I get in, because I'm certain that it helps businesses increase their income and all the other things that I just mentioned. It helps you amplify. So specifically, just to continue on this topic, during the pandemic, where people were forced to start thinking about, well, how do I distribute my product digitally? How do I take sales online? How do I work with my team remotely? How do I still communicate? And it forced adaptation. So I think over time, it's going to become even more of a necessity. But even if it was just for the security of avoiding a catastrophe or an issue, it's good to have in place.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I remember before the pandemic, not many people knew what Zoom was. Right? And the pandemic came, and now everybody is on Zoom, right? I mean, there's still people that are finding it a challenge to work Zoom, still, but people are on it now because that's the way they've been communicating while we were all on lockdown. And
Right.
the tech has evolved so much just in a couple of years during the pandemic, right? And it's only going to evolve even more. So you really just can't get away from it. And to be fair, Tim, I'm not a tech person. I'm really not a tech person, but I've had to learn to embrace certain things because when building a business, you can't get away from tech, right? Especially if it's a digital service or a digital product and you want to get yourself out there globally because you want to build an empire legacy. You can't stay away from tech if that's what you want, right? Now,
I agree.
Tim, what do you find, right? And we spoke a little bit about this off camera, but what do you find are the biggest fears and obstacles that stops people from embracing tech?
So it's definitely fear. Their fear of messing something up. I see in every age demographic's different. Every person's different. I'm generalizing here, but most people are afraid of, breaking something, or they're afraid of, clicking a button or tapping something or adding it to their business in fear it's going to mess something up. That's one fear. The other fear is, some people are afraid of cost. They think that it costs millions of dollars to build a technical solution for their business. And that's just not the case. We've built software that was $1,000 all the way up to more than $1 million and different contracts. But it really depends on what the person is looking to achieve and how complex we get into in the details. The way that I describe it to people is, if you want to build a shed versus wanting to build a skyscraper, there's going to be different times involved, different material, different experts that need to be brought in, different infrastructure to run that skyscraper versus a shed. So it really just depends on the solution that you're looking for. The fear of just, not being in the industry too. People think that you have to have this really high level understanding of software and technology in order to, have something built or have something work for you. And that's not the case either. Full transparency. Like, I'm not a developer. I know a lot, as I've been in the industry over 10 years. Like, I can communicate a lot, but I'm very much the liaison between a stakeholder, somebody wanting to build something, and an engineering team that actually lays the bricks, that actually creates the power and the infrastructure behind it. And so that fear is also not really a factor. You don't have to be a coder to own an app or a software company or, build your platform. So I think those are some of the main ones, just to name a few.
I feel like tech has definitely got easier, right? Like back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago, if you wanted to build a website, it would cost tens of thousands of dollars, right? And now it doesn't cost anywhere near that unless, I don't know, you're making this huge, massive website with, I don't know, AI or whatever it is, right? That's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. But getting started, building a website doesn't cost much at all. And that goes with a lot of other things, creating apps. Like, there's loads of people doing it. It doesn't have to cost a fortune, right? And there's always ways around it for sure. And so why do you feel that business owners, right, really need to kind of, I guess, get their heads around tech, right? Whether it's them doing it or not, and I don't suggest that any business owner go and learn how to do tech or build an app and do all that. Stay in your skill set, guys. But actually embracing it doesn't mean that you have to go and do it, but understanding it, like you were saying, right? Understanding how it can help your business, how you can implement it in your business, and then just kind of reaching out to people like yourself to say, hey, I want to do this in my business. I want to create an app, for example. How do I get that going? Who do I speak with? Right?
Yeah. So a business owner, most of the time, at least in my experience, has a problem or an issue that they're dealing with that's annoying or takes a lot of time or requires, an employee or multiple employees to facilitate. There's a lot of different
Right.
products and services out there. Most of the time, a lot of them already have an idea, or they're using a duct taped solution where they're using an Excel sheet that talks to Zapier, that talks to this, and they maybe have already put something together, but it's duct taped and bungee corded.
Yeah.
And that could turn into a well-oiled machine or engine. So those are really fun to do when somebody's already kind of created their own solution. Some people haven't gone that step, and they have a problem and they just live with it. It's like this parasite or this thing that's holding them back, but they don't know that there's a solution or that there might be a solution. So they refrain from ever even getting a quote or ever even discussing a tech team. And then there's some out there that have sought help, and they end up talking to a team that wastes their time, that wastes their money, that wastes their energy. And I've been down that road too. I remember I've been scammed for hundreds of thousands of dollars before I actually built my own dream team. So I get that. And there's people that have spent millions failing because everyone will tell you they're the right guy, and everyone will tell you that they do this, and then a year later, rotations of the earth later, you're still not getting the solution that you need for your product, or your vision isn't aligning. So we get that too. So we launch awesome software. Absolutely no apprehension saying that. Like our team launches really great tech. And our process has been refined through failure. Our process has been refined through working with many, many stakeholders of different varieties, in government, overseas, stateside, small business, large business, a variety of different people. And that's made us stronger as we've learned, and will continue to grow. But so our process is different. So we start with step one is extracting. We talk to the business owner. Who are you? Who's your customer? What's going on in your world? What are you looking to achieve? The what and the why, and then the result of that. What do you imagine happening? We've got a series of questions that helps us gather intel. So then when we get to step two, it's again, balls in our court, where we literally put together a measurable quote alongside of a design. So we're building a working prototype. This is all free. We build out a working prototype of what it looks like, what it acts like without the engine. So that acts as a secondary point of communication, where we get back on a Zoom call just like this, and we go over, hey, how close are we? What do you think about this? Here's the login. Here's what you mentioned about, here's our interpretation of what you said and what we've collected. When we get a thumbs up on that, maybe it takes 4 conversations. We're obviously motivated to try to create, spin up another business, and help them launch. We get paid more often than not long term, because we become that point of contact that actually launches good stuff.
Yeah.
So in that communication phase of prototyping, that then evolves into sending a quote and then getting a kickoff. There's milestones in there when we deliver on some of the objectives that we've already predefined. It's just really good communication. So extract, design, communicate, and then kick off. And then at the end, we're testing and delivering. So
Wow.
it's helped tremendously. And it avoids the biggest reason why most tech companies fail, or a development project in general fails, is due to ambiguity. So you as a stakeholder have an idea, and in your heart and your mind, like you've got a good finger on the pulse of what needs to be done and how it needs to operate and work. But communicating that, there's a loss. There's typically a loss in that communication. So what we've done in our process is reduce that ambiguity through design and through effective communication across every single means of communication that's possible, agilely back and forth, and then we ship your dream product. But it's custom to what that person's looking for, what their vision is.
I like that.
And that's the complex piece.
Yeah, and one of the things I guess that stands out here is when people come to you, then they don't always know what it is that they need or what they want, right? And so hashing that out and having that conversation with yourself, right? You can say, hey, why don't you do this? And what about this? How about this idea?
Right.
Right? And I guess bring up different ideas that others wouldn't have thought of. Right. And again, simplify things, right? Create a actual process where you actually get given back your time because you're implementing tech in your business, right? Which gives you time freedom.
Yep.
Right? Exactly what you have done for yourself and your family.
Right.
Right? Which is amazing. And just to let everyone know that he is a dad, he's got a 2-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
We had a conversation offline, but because you are able to build this business, you've got more freedom, more time to do the things that you enjoy and spend time with your family and look after your poor little daughter, 2 years old, that got a cold, right?
Yeah.
And still know that you're going to be fine. You still got money coming in because you've got certain things in place, structure, processes, tech, right? That will take care of a lot of the things.
Right. And having that information, having that forethought, knowing, like, from my own experience, running platforms that have hundreds of thousands of users, giving those suggestions during the development process. Not only do we build as if we are holding the debit card or the credit card, like infrastructure centered around that build, but we also, again, we have insight as far as, what are the monetization methods of your platform? Have you thought about maybe even building this to white label it and sell it to other companies in your world? So not only did you pay, you literally have a new business, because most of the time, companies, whether they're in construction or e-commerce, whatever, their pain is magnified across everyone else in the industry. So if you build it in a way that then you can sell your digital service as a license or subscription, one-time payment, whatever you want to do. So we do suggestions for monetization too. Maybe it's ad revenue, maybe it's a freemium model, maybe there's, like I mentioned, there's a subscription. We give suggestions on all of that, monetization, even distribution. That's probably a big issue that a lot of people face, is now that I have this thing, my dream software is built, how do I get people in it? How do I make people aware of this thing? How do I get it on the Play stores? How do I advertise for it? How do I get people to download it or click it or join it or tell other people about it? So maybe we build out a referral program inside of your platform that has your own affiliate thing. There's all sorts of things that you can do with tech. That's what makes it really fun. But the knowledge that we'll inject into a stakeholder is also, really valuable, I think.
Wow, amazing. Oh my goodness. I'm kind of like, oh my goodness, you just given me a few ideas there. Wow. What else what other information would you be able to provide to me, and value would you be able to give if I got on a call with you? Mm-hmm. Amazing. Now, Tim, you get on a lot of podcasts, right? Why did you decide guest podcasting, right? Or podcasting overall, right? Because I do know you have a podcast yourself. Why did you decide podcasting will be a great marketing strategy to get the education out there and build a global stage for yourself? Why did you choose that route?
Yeah. So being omnipresent is really important. And what I mean by that is, again, back to what I mentioned earlier, 80% of people look you up before they decide to do business with you. Yeah. And podcasting specifically is really great digital real estate for search engine optimization, for being shared across a multitude of really big platforms like iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon. The list goes on, Apple. There's all these really big stages, or again, I look at it like digital real estate. Oftentimes it's very cost effective to get on and create dialogue and share your brand and share your voice. And ultimately what I think you're doing, and the reason why I choose to do it, is so people can know, like, and trust me. They can see, oh, this is a good dude. This is a good person. This is somebody I vibe with. Or they'll say, yeah, that guy's a douchebag. I don't want to talk to it all. Whatever it ends up being, if you put yourself out there, it's very good for your business. Like your brand, your business and brand should have a voice. And it's very likely somebody that's listening to something like this, to grow and so I highly suggest it. There's more benefits than cons. I really don't know of any cons. like, why wouldn't you do it?
Right.
Why wouldn't you be labeled as the subject matter expert? Why wouldn't you share the knowledge that you have and be of value in the market and generate leads and take advantage of their digital real estate? I advocate for that for our creator platform. I tell them about podcasting all the time, and I tell them about, getting digital real estate. Everybody knows about the main ones, right? YouTube, Twitter,
right.
TikTok, you name it, all the ones that people know. But there's also other ones out there too that are just the unknowns, or maybe rising in rank. So if you look on your app store, you can see all these different places where you can have your digital billboard, if you will, and put your profile out there and start sharing your content or syndicating it around. But if you don't have any content, you don't have a stage, you're missing out.
That's right. And you already know I'm all about podcasting, whether it's guesting, having your own podcast, or doing both, right? You can't get enough content out there to the world. So, oh my goodness, I love that. Thank you so much, Tim. Now, guys, all the links will be in the show notes below. Make sure you go and contact Tim, reach out to him, go check out his website. His website is timbranyan.com. Go and book a call with him. Go and see what else he's doing. Have a conversation, because I guarantee he will be able to maximize and simplify your business. So go and have that conversation with him. Tim, do you have any last words before we come to an end?
I really don't have anything. I appreciate the opportunity. Just to kind of echo what you said, if I can help anybody, or somebody's got an idea and maybe they've been apprehensive or been fearful for whatever reason, or maybe they've been burned in the past and they, they've got something on the shelf, would love to just kind of unpack that and give them a fair shot at bringing it to life effectively. So getting a quote, getting a wireframe, getting a design. And even if you don't decide to work with us, getting that will help you raise capital. It might help you bring other people around the idea, or continue snowballing it to where it needs to be. So, either way, I think it'd be valuable. And I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me on. And exciting stuff.
It was awesome having you on here, and I feel like I can talk to you forever. Oh my goodness, right? And every time you open your mouth and you give more and more content, you blow my mind. So thank you for coming onto the show. It was great having you on.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.